everybody, and welcome to the absolutely iconic Temple of Speed, because it is time for round 5 of the FIA World Endurance Championship, the 6 Hours of Monza. I am joined by WEC expert Sam Smith. And Sam, before we divulge into everything we can expect from this weekend, of course, it was Ferrari that took home the win at Le Mans, and they're back in their hometown for this weekend. What can we expect from our Italian friends?
Well, we can expect a wash of red, can't we, in the grandstands? There's going to be a huge crowd off the back of that incredible win by Ferrari. I mean, what a fairy tale, and what a way to do it. You know, pushed all the way by Toyota, all the hybrid hypercar manufacturers leading at a stage of the race, and even the Toyota Porsche, the customer Porsche, leading some laps of that event. So, yeah, I mean, that was an incredible race. We've had Spa, arguably the greatest circuit in the world. We've had Le Mans, probably the best event in the world. And now we're here at Monza, like you said, a sort of cathedral of speed. And we, you know, in those forests are sort of ghosts of the past that you can feel. And I think Ferrari feel that. There's extra pressure, of course, but look, after Le Mans, they did the ultimate test of that pressure to bring that car home.
Well, the only team that could really come near to them that weekend as they crossed the finish line was Toyota. They came home second. Are we seeing an incredible rivalry starting to bloom here, Sam? I
think we are, and I think it's super mouthwatering because Toyota are there with these targets on their back of previous success in the WEC. But Ferrari have come with this car. They hit the ground running in Sebring. They showed the possibility of what they could achieve in the subsequent rounds at Spa and Portimao. And then they beat Toyota at Le Mans, which was their own private sort of fiefdom in a way, Toyotas, and they've managed to do it. And they did it by strategy, they did it by pace, and they did it by reliability. There was that heart-stopping moment, wasn't there, at the end when the car didn't seem to fire and then
Made
did.
me so nervous.
But didn't they cope with that well? There was no panic, they just got it done. And that's the kind of sensational sort of part of the script which you always get in sports car racing. And here in Monza, you tend to get all these little sub-stories and subplots among a race, especially with such a great hypercar field here.
Well, Monza's a very different place to Le Mans in the sense that we're only racing for 6 hours here. And when we look back to hour 6 at Le Mans, Peugeot had led, Toyota had led, Toyota had led, Ferrari had led. I think everybody was kind of still in the mix. Can we expect more of the same here this weekend? And what does it take to be quick around this track?
Well, I hope we get that kind of level of excitement and competition. But part of me thinks that, you know, you can't replicate that in a 6-hour race. But look, I'm here to be proven wrong. I really hope that it happens. I think what we're going to see is probably a straight battle between Toyota and Ferrari. I think that is likely. You know, Cadillac have shown that on consistency and the pace that they're getting, the increased pace through that V Series R, that they could be an occasional challenger. But the rivalry is what really intrigues me between Toyota and Ferrari, because like I said before, Toyota have been kind of temporarily knocked off a pedestal, but don't forget that the number 8 car, Sebastian Buemi, Ryo Hirakawa and Brendan Hartley, are still leading the championship. You know, they've got an 18-point advantage still. So they're in the box seat for the championship. But Ferrari's, I think just Ferrari's kind of momentum in that 51 car in particular, and don't forget the 50 has proved to be blindingly quick in qualifying particularly, that they're actually going to think now, well, look, you know, could we have a crack at the championship? They've got to make up that deficit. And I think the next 3 races here at Monza, Fuji and Bahrain, it's going to be a case of, well, you know, where can they find that little advantage? And don't forget as well that at Bahrain in November, there's extra points on offer.
That's very important.
So it could literally go down to the last few hours in that 8 hours of Bahrain.
Well, we've been saying that momentum is key, but one team that has slightly less momentum than everyone else is, of course, Toyota, because they received their Porsche 963 slightly later than everyone else. And one team, well, with significantly less momentum, it's the Proton Competition car. They've finally got their Porsche 963. It will be the first time seeing them on track this weekend. Sam, give us some insight. Can we expect some surprises from this team? What's their kind of background?
Well, we know Proton, of course, for so many years, since the start of the WEC, in what they've achieved in the GTE Am class. You know, if they can reprise what Toyota did at Spa and have a really good run, get some data, gather some real strong mileage, then they can achieve quite a bit this season. I mean, look, Neil Jarney, we've got Jimmy Bruni, and we've got Harry Tinknell. That is a super, super strong driver trio there. And I think with the experience that they've got in GT racing, and just the fact that this Porsche 963, although still has some way to go in terms of the pace and what it can offer in terms of hard results, I think the customer duo of Toyota and Proton can really surprise the apple cart of the manufacturers, not necessarily here, but certainly over the course of the season.
Well, let's also talk about our non-hybrid friends, Vanwall, Glickenhaus. Glickenhaus especially, I think, surprised a few people at Le Mans, finishing 6th and 7th. Could they surprise some more people here this weekend?
Well, they nearly did it last year, didn't they? I mean, they weren't that far off from potentially winning the race. I mean, they could have won the race last year. I think what they achieved at Le Mans with that 6th and 7th was superb. I think for the resources they have, they did a really solid job, just adding to their reputation as not only a great racing team, but actually, you know, somebody who can, other smaller constructors or other potential customer teams in the future as well, they can use as a template for really taking it to the manufacturers. You know, they weren't in the same race as the manufacturers at Le Mans, but as I said, you know, go back to what Jim Glickenhaus says, they don't have the same resources, they don't have the same budgets.
It's different, right?
Yeah, but getting a 6th and 7th at Le Mans in arguably the strongest year for a generation, it was a massive achievement. And I think here, you know, there's no reason why they can't be on the real tail of those top manufacturers here. And Floyd Vanwall, we've got another driver change for this weekend.
Of course.
João Paulo de Oliveira's come in, Brazilian who's been based in Japan for probably around 20 years now and has had a great success in Japan. Really good test and development driver too. So I think he can bring a lot to that team. And I think over the course of the season, if they can improve to really have a challenge to the Glickenhaus, then I think that's probably the best they can hope for this season.
Let's move on to our prototypes then, LMP2. And of course at Le Mans, it was a ferocious battle that ultimately came down to, well, the Battle of the Poles. Our Polish Baker friends in Enter Europol and Robert Kubica leading that number 41 WRT car. It went down to the very end of the race, but ultimately it was, well, the underdog story. Enter Europol took the win. Could we see that again this weekend?
I don't see why not. I mean, it was a major surprise. I don't think anyone had placed a lot of money on Enter Europol competition winning the LMP2 class at Le Mans, but what a fine job they did. I mean,
and what a feel-good story.
A great story. And, you know, you've got this Polish angle now with Robert Kubica, of course, who we'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure, but also the Enter Europol team have just put Polish motorsport on the map from what they've achieved. And you had that amazing drama of Fabio Scherer getting through those, pretty much the whole of Le Mans with an injured leg after remarkably
beaten up, the poor lad.
got beaten up by a Corvette. I mean, you know, that's not the way to actually start your Le Mans, is it?
Not ideal.
But what a great job he did. I mean, the whole team did a great job. They deserved all the accolades afterwards. And I think, yeah, I don't see why not. There were signs there earlier in the season, weren't there, that they could be a factor.
Yeah.
But actually, again, at the same time, you've got teams like WRT, you've got Jota, you've got Prema, and of course United Autosports, who are so hard to beat. But that team managed to do it at Le Mans. So kudos to them, and I'm sure they can kick on from it and really get some momentum. And, you know, who knows? They're in the title fight in LMP2 as it stands.
Second, right?
Yeah, they're second, and they're not far off the 41 crew. So I think Hypercar and LMP2, the championship battle, will literally go down to the last few hours at Bahrain.
Enter Europol were so successful at Le Mans, but would it be fair to say that we could see a return to old ways here this weekend? Should we be keeping out for Jota, United, WRT, even Prema?
Who knows? I mean, the form book got torn up at Le Mans, didn't it? But yeah, you look at what's been achieved in the past by United Autosports, who will be hurting. You know, they'll be wounded because at Le Mans, they had a really tough Le Mans and they came away disappointed. They did collect some points useful for the championship, but Le Mans is much more than that, obviously, in terms of what you achieve on the day. WRT 31 should have got a podium with that late issue that they had.
So cruel.
Really heartbreaking for them not to get that podium. But I think, you know, could they be essentially after this race, if they're not in the championship hunt, will they be deployed to protect the 41 and sort of have the 41s back?
Could be an interesting story.
So Robert Kubica, Louis Delatraz and Rui Andrade, I think, not saying they're the favourites, but I've just got a feeling because Andrade won his first LMP2 class race here last year with the real team run by WRT. And he is just, I've sort of noticed him, he's been quite quiet in the way that he's improved this season, but he's come on leaps and bounds, and I'm sure actually Robert Kubica has been part of that and the combined experience of Louis Delatraz. So they're going to be super strong as well.
Well, a special shout out to Louis Delatraz as well, because he's currently leading the championship in both WEC and ELMS, which is quite the feat. And finally, let's move on to LMGTE Am, because if the top two classes have been a tightly fought battle, well, perhaps LMGTE Am is quite the opposite, with Corvette Racing creating an incredibly healthy lead to the point that they could win the championship this weekend. Sam, will it happen?
It could happen. There's a whole load of permutations that are going to test my A-level maths. Not that I got that far with maths, I was GCSE actually. But actually, when you look at the domination, and it isn't far off domination of that 33 Corvette Racing crew, Ben Keating, Nicholas Varoni, and of course Nicky Katzberg, it's hard to see how they are not going to win the championship. I think it's just a question of if it's here or if it's at Fuji as well. So the other interesting plot line here, of course, is that Ben Keating, when he was driving for TF Sport last year, that car ended its race on its roof at the Variante Rogia with that horrible accident for Chavez. So there'll be a little bit of Ben Keating thinking, right, I need to tick another one off. He's ticked a couple of Le Mans off, he's ticked a whole load of other milestones off, reigning champion, of course, and winning many races in the WEC. But I think, doing it at Monza with a Corvette on Ferrari's heartland will be pretty sweet for Ben if he can do it. And if he can take the title, that's dreamland, isn't it? He's going to be absolutely on top of the world. So are they the favourites for this race? I'm not sure. I've got a feeling that Ferrari will be strong. I think the number 54 AF Corsa, Francesco Castellacci, Thomas Fleur and Davide Rigon will be really strong this weekend. They've kind of been there or thereabouts this season, not quite got it together, but I think they'll be the ones to watch come Sunday afternoon.
Well, not just them, because we're about to walk past the Iron Dames garage, and of course this is the track where they took their first WEC podium here last year. They were close at Le Mans. Could they do it again this weekend? Maybe go one step further?
Don't see why not. I mean, the thing about the Iron Dames is they seem to be racing week in, week out. Wherever there's an endurance race, they're there and they're doing a good job. This season, again, they've not been quite there. They've not got it all together, but certainly the pace is there. There's been a few little errors here and there which have cost them, but I think here at Monza, it'll be interesting to see how the Porsche gets on here at Monza. I just got a sense that the Ferrari will be really hard to beat, but certainly no reason why they can't reprise their heroics last season of the pole and the podium.
Well, what about the Astons very quickly? Because, of course, we mentioned Corvette, Porsche, Ferrari. Could they cause us some trouble? Yeah,
we're going to have a multi-manufacturer battle in LMGTE Am this weekend. I think Porsche, Aston Martin, Corvette and Ferrari are all going to be possible winners. So please do not ask me for my predictions this week, Alexa, okay?
Oh, you know I'm going to be asking you for your predictions this week, Sam. What are we saying?
Right, so I think there's going to be an element of revenge in the air here at Monza. Sometimes you get quite a sort of feverish kind of atmosphere, and I really hope there is one on
a little bit of drama brewing.
Yeah, and the Tifosi are vocal, and they want to see the prancing horse succeed. But I just got a feeling that Toyota are going to get a bit of revenge for what happened at Le Mans. So I think the number 8 will win come Sunday afternoon. I think in LMP2, I just sense that the 41 are really going to kick on with their title challenge and are going to be tough to beat. And then I think in Am, well, I said Ferrari, I'm going to go for a really good home story with Castellacci, Rigon and Thomas Fleur taking the win, their first win for a long time in the LMGTE Am class.
See, you did manage it. How hard was that?
We'll see on Sunday, won't we? Can't wait.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining me, Sam, and thank you so much for joining us. We cannot wait for all of the action to start unfolding here at Monza. Make sure you're following along. We're going to be covering everything on the WEC app and, of course, on the WEC socials. We'll see you after the race for our post-race debrief.